Hi, I decided to make this video to talk about grenade launchers in video games that I really like. This started because recently, I've been playing Demo and TF2, and there's nothing more satisfying than hitting a full 100 damage pill on someone. Criteria that I'm looking for to make a good grenade launcher is good sounds, good damage / low ammo, or decent damage and high ammo reserve. I don't want ammo to be so stingy that I never get to use it, but I don't want it to be so plentiful and weak that I question why I would use it as opposed to anything else in my arsenal. Now let's review some grenade launchers. First up, as previously mentioned, the Demoman's grenade launcher from TF2 is amazing. 4 pills for 100 damage on direct each, and you get a decent amount of reserve ammo? That's pretty good. It's spammable, but also has a reload time of 3 seconds. While not huge, it is noticeable in downtime of not dealing 100 damage shots. Overall, I think the grenade launcher in TF2 is amazing. Now let's look at a grenade launcher that isn't so amazing. The Ion Fury Disperser. The magazine holds 6 and the reserve ammo holds 48 grenades. This seems really good, because it is. But the main issue with the weapon is the inconsistency with the damage and the build engine jank leading to situations like these. It's competing directly with bowling bombs, which have the benefit of not needing direct line of sight of enemies to engage due to the tracking nature of them, and what I find through my testing to be a more consistent explosive radius. They're not the worst, but they're never a go-to weapon due to them being unreliable. With all that being said, they're still usable and have plentiful ammo, but you're gambling when using this weapon, so keep that in mind. Let's bounce right back over to good grenade launchers, and on this side of the board, we have the Resident Evil 3 Remake grenade launcher. You get this weapon about maybe halfway through the game. It's hard to tell what point is what in RE3 Remake due to how short it is. But anyway, you get it in the sewers, right as you're introduced to a new enemy. They can be loaded with regular grenade rounds, flame rounds, mine rounds, and acid rounds. Acid rounds being the strongest, but usually requiring ammo crafting to acquire. The launcher loads 6 grenades at a time, and has a slow reload and sort of slow firing rate, but the damage it does makes up for that. Even with stock grenade rounds, it just disintegrates enemies with ease. It also looks cool, being modeled after the Milcor M32 MSGL, coming from South Africa. Now let's go right back to bad grenade launchers for a few. Postal 2s. I'm a huge Postal 2 fan, but man, this grenade launcher sucks. It uses the same reserve ammo as the grenades, but can't be charged to throw further. It's just an alternative way of using the grenades. I suppose you could say, oh, but it's quicker damage due to the primary fire being explode on impact, but I don't know, man, it just feels like ass, and I prefer the utility of regular grenades over this thing. It's also super inconsistent with explosions. While having good damage and always jibbing someone, it still has more downsides than upsides, so for me, personally, I'd say this weapon sucks. Let's tackle another bad grenade launcher. We have the RGB-6 from Metal Gear Solid 2. Listen, before you write this complaint off, just hear me out. I know this is a stealth game, but it gives me a grenade launcher. I'm going to try it out. With trying it out, though, I can say that it's practically useless. It has a super steep arc, making the drop super pronounced and hard to make effective use of. It has a bit of ammo reserve, being a max of 30 in the clip that I'm showing, but its ammo is pretty rare. I find the only utility with it to be during the Vamp boss fight whenever he's underwater. For the explosion itself, it's going to send you into an alert or the very least a caution state. Now using it after being caught and enemies funneling through a door, sure, you could maybe say it's good then, but not really. It has a buggy explosion hitbox and will only get one guy sometimes. I speculate that this is because the first guy who's closest to the grenade kind of absorbs that damage rather than it being a huge explosion bubble that damages less the further out the enemy is. It just causes frustrations and game overs for me. This gun is pretty bad. Quick few to mention really quick. Shadow Warrior. I just beat this game recently, and the only good feeling weapons were the explosives. Grenade launcher in this game is fantastic and has a huge explosion radius, high ammo reserves, and good feedback on hit. This is just the better build engine grenade launcher than Ion Fury's. Quake 1. The classic grenade launcher. This thing is amazing. It shares an ammo pool with rockets, so it is fighting a losing battle once you get the rocket launcher. But I still like lobbing grenades because they look cool and make good sounds. This is all around just really solid, even if the grenade launcher itself looks a little goofy. Quake 2. Quake 2's grenade launcher is the coolest thing since sliced bread. Now, I'm under the impression that this thing was nerfed since Quake 1 due to enemies having a random chance to just duck out of the way of projectiles in this game. But this thing sounds amazing and still does amazing damage. It shares the same ammo pool as regular grenades in the game. Whether that's a downside or not is up to you. I just really like this one visually. Okay, final two big ones. Resident Evil 3 Original. We're looping back to Resident Evil 3 because this game is amazing. Go play it. It recently just re-released on GOG, so pick it up. Now, this grenade launcher is a break-action single-shot launcher, but Jill reloads it swiftly so the downtime isn't too long. And it's an S tier of a weapon. It can load all of the same ammunition type at once, so you can stack, say, 40 grenades inside of this thing without needing to waste another inventory space to keep ammo. Oh, also, quick note. This weapon would be the best in the game, excluding special weapons, if it wasn't for the revolver. The revolver one-shots enemies, but its drawback is limited ammo. You know what has a ton of ammo, though? Go ahead. Guess. That's right, the grenade launcher. It's so good. Final game to talk about is one I've completed on September 8th, Devil May Cry 1. How could I not talk about this grenade launcher? It has great damage, it can be fired quicker by roll canceling or jumping after firing. It builds back almost an entire bar of Devil Trigger on hit, which if you know how Devil Trigger works in the Devil May Cry games, you'll know that's really good. This gun's only downsides are that it locks you in place for a second when firing, even when rolling out of the animation, and you can't use it in the air. Oh, also, it's a projectile, so factor that in when shooting at fast targets or airborne enemies. It just feeds back into the gameplay loop of self-sustenance. You burn your Devil Trigger gauge, then fire off some shots and get it back in a few seconds. In this footage, I'm getting my ass handed to me by Nilo Angelo, but I'm able to stay alive due to getting Devil Trigger back by just chucking nades at him. Oh, you're getting beat up, Dante? Just fucking lob a nade at him. Seriously, this gun is ridiculous and is super fun to use. It is the perfect grenade launcher due to it feeding right back into your strongest resource in the game, that being Devil Trigger. Am I making a good case for this weapon? Well, I hope so, since I would rank it as the best grenade launcher on this list for review. It's perfect in every aspect. With that, I'm going to end it here. If there's any grenade launchers from games that you've played that you really like, let me know in the comments. I try to only do research on games that I've played to avoid talking on my ass, so hopefully you found this to be entertaining or interesting.